Everyone loves to guess what's going to happen in Avengers Endgame. We get it. You got theories, we got theories, everyone's got theories, but today, we have a pretty crazy theory and it doesn't have anything to do with time travel, the quantum realm, or time loops. Our theory deals with fun stuff like death and hell. So in this video, we'll tell you how we think Loki will come back to life in Endgame and how he might be the key to reversing the snap. Oh, and also how he'll become the god of death. Nothing too bonkers. Okay, so Loki's dead. Well, kinda. Loki does have a tendency to fake his own death from time to time, but if we're being honest, all of his previous so-called deaths in the MCU were just tricks by the god of mischief. So while his windpipe got crushed by Thanos in Infinity War, it's a safe bet that Loki will come back to life in Endgame. Loki's a major player in the MCU. He actually appeared in more films than poor old Hawkeye, who's a founding member of the Avengers. So that says a lot about both of these characters, and it'll be weird if Loki doesn't play a big role in Endgame, a film that's somewhat of an ending for the MCU as we know it. We have a theory about Loki's role in Endgame, a theory with real proof. Well, not actual proof, more like serious speculation and a lot of guessing. And some of it might actually be very wrong, but if we're being honest here, we don't really have anything better to do until Avengers Endgame comes out, so please do us a favor and hear us out. If you don't, we're gonna cry and that'll be very sad, so don't make us cry. Anyway, so what's Loki's deal? Does he have a girlfriend? What's his favorite color and snack? No one knows, but we do know some other juicy stuff, like the fact that deep down, he isn't so bad. It was recently revealed, well, more like retconned, that the reason why Loki was so evil in the first Avengers film was because the Mind Stone had influenced him and made him do some bad things. It turns out Loki isn't really a bad guy. Yep. Good old mind control and brainwash trick. Works every time. But in all seriousness, we think Marvel did this retcon for a reason. We think Loki's been playing a mischievous game ever since the first Avengers movie, and his master plan will finally be revealed in Avengers Endgame. Deaths in the MCU are pretty complicated. Sometimes you die for real, and sometimes you die, but not for real. Death for Asgardians might be even more complicated. After all, Odin did die in Thor Ragnarok, but he later appeared before Thor in the climax like some Force ghost. After the Allfather died, his daughter and the goddess of death, Hela, was freed from her prison and was allowed to do whatever she wanted. Well, until she tried to fight a fire giant who probably killed her. Maybe he didn't, who knows? She might just be floating in space right now. But what if Odin's death and Hela's return was all part of Loki's master plan? What if Loki exiled Odin to Earth and took his place in Thor the Dark World for a reason? Loki must have known that such an act will weaken and kill Odin, which in turn will free Hela from her prison. But why would Loki want this to happen? Well, maybe Loki figured that he and Thor will be able to stop Hela. And let's face it, Loki wasn't the biggest fan of his adoptive father. Those two really needed to have a talk. We think Loki's plan was to get Hela out of the picture so that the position of the deity of death will be vacated this way. If he so happens to die himself, he can pull some strings and become the new god of death. Yeah? Now, listen, there's certainly easier ways to steal someone's job, so if this is the case, shame on you, Loki. And yeah, we know, this sounds super far-fetched, but we've got more than that. Come on. We know the Reality Stone has the power to alter reality itself, and if you remember, in the post-credits scene of Thor the Dark World, Loki did send the Reality Stone to the Collector. And yeah, the Dark World, sorry for bringing that movie up again, but there are some stuff in that film which might prove useful for our theory. Loki did have the Reality Stone before he gave it to the Collector. For all we know, Loki might have used it to alter reality itself. So if he really does die, he could give himself a second chance at life and an upgrade by becoming the new god of death. Loki's a pretty smart guy, and it's very possible that, following the events of the first Avengers film, Loki figured out what Thanos is planning to do with the Infinity Stones. It's very likely that Loki gathered some useful information about the Infinity Stones, and he figured out some ways to use them for his own benefit, something that might be very useful in Endgame. But you might ask why Loki would need to become the new god of death to help with the reversing of the snap. Well, in his new godly position, Loki might not only have more power than most beings in the universe, but he can also have a better understanding of death, and possibly know where all the characters who perished during the snap were sent to. This could make Loki a key player in Endgame. Of course, some of you may ask why Loki would give an Infinity Stone to the Collector of all people, and why he'd give it away in the first place. Well, we think that after Loki found out about Thanos' plan, he decided to try and collect the Infinity Stones himself, and we think that the Collector was actually secretly working for Loki. Some might ask why Loki wouldn't just hide the stones in Odin's vault. Well, it's possible that Loki didn't want anyone to suspect him, or he knew that Thanos might show up on Asgard sooner or later looking for the stones, which would have been pretty bad for Loki and the people of Asgard. Loki's a smart guy, and he knows that it's never a good idea to put all of your eggs in one basket, so he decided to hide the Reality Stone with the guy who actually collects stuff. This way, if Thanos did come knocking, Loki could bargain with the Mad Titan by offering the location of the Reality Stone in exchange for the safety of Asgard. While Loki did some nasty things over the years, he always tried to do what's best for Asgard and its people in his own way. If not for Loki's schemes, Odin would have never banished Thor to Earth, which means Thor would have never been humbled, and most likely, the Avengers would have never been assembled. Also, if not for Loki's actions, Thor would never have found Hulk on Sakaar, so Thor and his fellow Avengers owe a lot to Loki. The interesting part here is that in Guardians of the Galaxy, the Collector was planning to buy the Power Stone from Gamora, which means that if things went his way, Loki could have gotten his hands on 3 Infinity Stones: the Space Stone, the Reality Stone, and the Power Stone, which strangely are also the first 3 stones that Thanos eventually got in Infinity War. That can't be a coincidence now, can it? Of course, Loki wasn't able to collect the stones before Thanos killed him, which of course made Loki turn to his plan B, die and become the new god of death. The big question is, how does Loki, being the new god of death, help our heroes reverse the snap? Well, the answer might be hidden in Avengers Age of Ultron. Scarlet Witch used her powers to play some mind tricks on the Avengers, but it seems like her powers affected Thor the most, since he got a pretty weird vision about Asgard. Thor finds a very creepy Heimdall who tells him that they're all dead and it's Thor's fault. The vision can simply just be a setup for Thor Ragnarok, but there are a few things in this vision scene that might be the key for Endgame. One important thing is that Scarlet Witch got her powers from the Mind Stone. This stone might be the most important one, since not only has it influenced Loki and others, but it might have done the same to Thanos, and it appears like the Mind Stone has become one of the most important stones in the MCU. The most interesting thing that Heimdall tells Thor in the vision is that his eyes see Thor leading the people to hell. Now, anyone who knows anything about the Thor comics will know that in Norse mythology, Hel, spelt with one L, is a version of the afterlife, and Hela is its ruler. So wouldn't it be interesting if, when Thor loses all hope in Endgame, he remembers what the Mind Stone has shown him in Age of Ultron, and he connects the dots, realizing that the key for reversing the snap might be in Hel. Consider the fact that Thor will feel responsible for his part in the decimation. Thor spent the whole film wanting to kill the Mad Titan as vengeance for Thanos' actions at the start of the film. He even got himself a whole new hammer to do so. But when it was time to deliver the killing blow, Thor decided he needed to have a heart-to-heart with Thanos. This delay allowed Thanos to snap his fingers and kill half of all life in the universe. If Thor just went for the head, Thanos would be dead, and there'd be no snap that needs undoing. It'll be fitting if Thor's the one who's able to find a way to reverse the snap. It'll make a lot of sense considering his arc in Phase 3, and it'll be pretty awesome to see Thor travel to Hel to find answers, only to be reunited with Loki, who at this point will be the ruler of Hel and the god of death. Now, we're not saying that all of those who died during the decimation are in Hel, but it'll make sense if there's a connection between the realm of the dead and the place where all those who died during the decimation were sent to. After all, who knows what the MCU's version of Hel is even going to be? The great minds at Marvel Studios tend to adjust elements from the comics to fit their films better. It's not very clear how the Asgardian afterlife will work in the MCU, considering that the Thor films never really dove too much into Norse mythology. It was explained by Thor himself that, on Asgard, magic and science are one and the same, meaning there might be a connection between Hel and the quantum realm. Both might hold the key for undoing the decimation, something that'll of course make Loki a major player in Endgame considering his new role. Beyond that, the fact that the Mind Stone showed Thor a vision which tells him to travel to Hel for answers means that the realm of the dead must have some type of a clue that'll be crucial for the undoing of the snap. And let's not forget that when Hela showed up in Thor Ragnarok, she kicked a lot of butt. Not only did she crush Thor's hammer with a smile, she was able to take on a whole army by herself and win. So it's very likely that once Loki becomes the new god of death, he'll possess powers that could rival Thanos himself, even with all 6 stones. But all of this is, of course, just speculation, and we don't have any real proof. That being said, you gotta admit, if any of this turns out to be true, it might be very, very cool. We just can't wait for Avengers Endgame! So, what do you think about all this? Do you agree with our crazy theory? How do you think Loki will come back in Endgame? Let us know in the comments section below, and if you can be so kind, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to CBR for more MCU videos like this one. Thanks for watching.